Hello SGD, Sacred Geometry Decoded, and I started drawing this one when the issues transferring the files over, so I couldn't, I'm going to do it again. So this is the basis of what we'll be drawing. It's the Maltese Cross, so we have the Templar Cross. You might also notice how it creates the Maltese Cross, but there are other geometries hidden in there, so that would relate to. So the same construction to draw this was how I was able to draw the Tree of Life. Same principle as this clock drawing I posted recently, and from this you can also get all the points you need, so you can incorporate this into the compass rose, and I'll show that at the end. But so it's the same. You always begin the same, but this shows how you can, the variations that come from there. So I'm going to begin with get everything in camera, begin with a construction line. Actually, I'm not going to begin with the construction line because I just want to show you, just but this is the way that the Seed of Life works. So I'm going to I'll put lines in, but I'll begin without a construction line. And it's just, that's like one of the beauties to do with hexagons, equilateral triangles, and the this Seed of Life pattern. So I'm going to, without a construction line, I'm still going to get them lined up, whether horizontal or vertical. Just outside the camera. I need to adjust this to keep it all in. Okay, that should fit now. I'm going to be in with one circle. And then I'm going to draw a vesica, and even I don't need the construction line because just the way this thing works, it's going to come in nicely, just the rules of geometry, rules of nature. Okay, now, if I was to draw another line here, I would, I could be off. So the points given by there, and I really want to get this right, so I might stick my head in front of a camera a few times, but I want to get it on that point. And so the drawing itself will give you all the points you need. Just wherever they intersect, that will tell you where your next point for your compass is. Yep, I'm in camera. And not just visually, but also like it's proven geometrically that this will cross, the 6 circles will perfectly wrap around the 7th, the core circle. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I could draw a hexagon, could draw a hexagram, skip every one, we have an equilateral triangle. And so the square root of 3 is also the way it expands as well. But now with that, I'm going to find that center. So again, even without the construction line, it will, if you just follow it around, we'll bring up that point now. Okay, so I just want this circle going around the outside. And the reason I began with the construction line, I'm going to try and do this so that every line counts. There's no need to rub or erase anything out. So if we can divide this, just by following through the centers along those petals, we can divide everything up into 6, and that'll give us the first point. Again, I've mentioned always, but put the point where you want to find it, and then adjust the straight edge to there. Because if you're trying to adjust a ruler to that, you can sort of slip and move out now. I'm going to live dangerously, and I'm going to go. I'm going to stick with pencil. So I'm going to try and do this. You need no erasing along the way. And just draw a line through each of those petals. Got to go this side so the light shows. I'm also sort of not just going over it twice to make it darker, I'm also trying to cut into the paper a little bit to give it that extra little bit of texture. That won't show up on camera, but if you use a really nice parchment or a nicer piece of paper, that sort of effect will give it that little bit of niceness to it. So now we've divided this outer circle into 6, and what I'm going to do now is create 2 equilateral triangles. So one is skip each point, and that gives you the hexagram, 6-pointed star, or the Star of David. There's another name for it now, I always forget that one, but so again, this will try and be a no construction line design. Let me get that on the outside again, just so I can see without the shadow. So one triangle, now we'll do the other one. And by sort of pointing down again, because you're making an impression on the paper where that point is, so that will also help keep everything really accurate. Okay, so now we have the 6-pointed star. Now, so where these little curves come together, that cuts the 6 points exactly in half. So you could either use there and go through the middle to divide it up into 12, what we'll do next, but also note that this trough where the star comes, that's another point, so they all should be lined up. So you can use either one, and the further you go through this construction, the further you go through, all the points will be created by what you've done previously. Let's get that lined up nice. So it's just the nature, it's like a tessellating pattern. You start small and you get these small equilateral triangles or hexagons, and then they'll grow out, and they go and especially it's linked all to the square root of 3, this important math constant. And one more across the center here. Lost the technique for a moment. Okay, so now we've divided the circle up into 12. So in between each of those points of the hexagon, it's now just another series of equilateral triangles. So I'm going to start here, I'm going to skip this one, I'm going to go to the next, and this will give us a 12-pointed star. So it's a good format beginning to a clock, or 12 months of the year, the 12 signs of a Zodiac type of design. I'm going to use a clock design with 1 to 12, but if you want to illustrate it, decorate it, whatever way you want. It's use of 12, especially even in like ancient weight, like 12 inches per foot, 12 poppy seeds per inch is the old, like now it's 16 ounces per pound, but the old ancient style was to have 12 ounces per pound. There are 12 members of a jury, 12 disciples. It's a very common number, dividing a dozen. It's also in the Pythagorean harmonics as well, sort of the way that those numbers blend on, it's 3, 6, 12, 24, 48, and that's what we work. We began with a triangle, second equilateral triangle gave us 6, and then now we're going to 12, and if you were to repeat, you would get a 24 pointed star, and we will do that. I'll show you a way to beginning with that, thinking about 12. And so as it gets more complex now, the next step up would be a 24 pointed star. Now we have a 12 pointed star. And then you introduce the 12 around the outside, and just to help make sure you get everything right, because it's more, we began with 2 equilateral triangles, now we have 4 equilateral triangles. That's why we have the 12. And all these little triangles that are built in there, they'll also create this nice grid pattern. Now it's just a matter of, I'm just going to reset the camera, because if I make the files too large, I sometimes have an issue. Okay, so now we've got the 12 pointed star, and it's just a matter of repeating the same pattern, and we're going to get a 24 pointed star. But before I go there, I'm going to use a thick point to mark this out, because we now also have all the elements we need to do a Templar, Knights of Malta, or like as in the Maltese flag, the Maltese Cross. Because I'm using a thicker point, I just got to put a bit more spacing between the straight edge and the guiding line. Okay, now I'm just going to follow that chevron here, and I have 1/2 of the Maltese Cross. And like, for instance, you'll see these symbols in York Rite Freemasonry. The 12th rite is the Knights of Malta, and the 13th is the Templar. So that'll be the Templar Cross, and you'll even sort of see it in their emblems. Okay, there's beginnings of a Maltese Cross. And this is, it's creating an octagon as well. So I'll show that once I'm done. So this, it's from a 12 pointed star is a geometry, but it's a octagonal feature. Now we just repeat that. Same. Should be. Yep, it should be clear now. See, that's the Maltese Cross based off a 12 pointed star. And what you'll find is a set square you get like this in corp. So we have one angle there, and we have the other angle there. But that's one of the reasons why this particular tool is in there. If that's 1, then that is 2, and that is the square root of 3. If I flip this over, I get an equilateral triangle. 30, 30, and still all the 60 degree. Okay, so there's the Maltese Cross. And now we're going to do a 12. Okay, now so I'm going to, I will draw that in there. There's another feature that we have, and that will help. So what I did this drawing, I began with a square, and so a square is 4, then 2 squares, 18 and 16 and 32. So that was how we created this 32 points. What you have now, so you can use the same geometry, and then you can put a 32, like the Sunburst clock, you can add 32 points around the outside, and all you need to do that is to begin with 2 squares, and they are in here as well. And this is just an example of a geometry. And so your 45, the other set square, you usually get this 90, 45, 45. That's 1/2 of a square, so that's also in this. So again, you can sort of use this geometry to build the drawing tools as well. I did a video on that, how you don't even, you just begin with a vesica-Pisces, but it's always, yeah, it's, they're not sort of just randomly chosen to have those tools in the kit there. Okay, so by drawing that pattern, you see we have a square, and all these lines, yeah, again, they're hiding a lot of stuff in there, and it's a cool feature about it. Now we want to, okay, now what we need to do now is get a square that's like at 45 degrees from there. That'll emerge in the next pattern, so keep in mind we have a square, and now it's just a matter of between each of these points here through the middle, we're going to divide it all up into 24. Okay, now I'm going to, so I'm paying attention. Begin there at the trough and run through the middle. So the middle point will always be the guide as well. Okay, now I'm going to draw. I've cut through there now. The next one will be on this side. Okay, so just a matter of dividing all this up. I need the other side so I can get the light. Now it's just we're going to draw all these lines. I just want to, so I can mark it easier, I'm going to pause, stop the camera for a moment, and then the next section will just be high speed because it's just a matter of repetition, and then we'll go to the next part. Alrighty, so we've divided it up. So we had the 12 pointed star and then we've cut through the middle, so now we've got 24 points around the outside. Now it's easy to make an error here, so what next is we're just going to draw again another series of equilateral triangles, but just to help with the construction of it and just to avoid mistakes, just an easy way, I'm going to number them now, and you could put these numbers in later as the so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, and so just to show you how to do the next part, we'll use these numbers as a reference. And again, it's just a series of equilateral triangles, so I'm going to go from 12 to 4, then to 8, and back to 12 again, and it's just a matter of repeating that. So 12, 4, 8, then 1, 5, 9, back to 1, and then so let's begin at 12 and we go to 4, to 4, 4 to 8, and then pardon me, 8 to 12. Okay, so we've created an equilateral triangle again, and in essence we're just going to do another series of the hexagram Star of David. So the next one is 1, 5, 9, back to 1. Bit out there, but it's okay. Especially as you get a little bit further, you can tempt to be impatient, but the further you go along in the drawing, the more you need to be because if I'd made a mistake early on, I could just start again. But once you've come this far, you can erase it out and do it again, but you lose all the work that's underneath, and so it's a shame. So it's just the further you go, the more you need to pay attention. That's why I'm numbered these ones out. So it's just it's easy to sort of skip one over and then you lose it again. Okay, so the next one will be 2, 6, 10, back to 2. So now 3, 7, 11, back to 3, and now we have, and that will complete the 24 pointed star. And 24 divided by 3 to 7. So the 12 pointed star, so 360 divided by 12 breaks the circle up into 30 degree sections. You need a 30 degree is the maximum. If you're making a pendulum, you don't want to swing it more than 30 degrees. And so now, because we've divided it up into 24, that means each section is divided up into 15. And it's really the 24 pointed star, because, for instance, between 6 and 7 is 30 degrees, and that gives you the pendulum line. So you could draw a big one of these. It looks like a clock. You can actually turn this into a 1 second timepiece with a pendulum. If long as the radius of a circle is 1 meter, 1/12 of a circle will be pi over 6 meters, or 1 ancient Egyptian cubit. Okay, last line is now 11 back to 3. So we have a 24 pointed star. And using that same technique, you could repeat to a 48, to a 96. You can use this. This was essentially the method that Archimedes used to work out pi. And now with the 24 pointed star, I mentioned earlier, we have this square in here. Now we also have a square that's at, it's in there, yep. Okay, I want to be careful. So with that square, we can now sort of do this octagon or octoad, and from that octoad is a way to find your 32 points around the outside. So imagine that construction underneath is there in the center. You can draw these rays on the outside from there. So you sort of have a clock and an old-fashioned compass. So let me make sure I get that, because there's so many lines now, it's easy to get dyslexic about it. And I would follow that up there, and that one there. Okay, I'm happy with that. So we're going to draw a octoad, which is also an important religious symbol. I think in Islam as well. Could be wrong about that, but also like the octoad, the 8 gods of creation in Lower Egypt. Okay, so now we have 1 square and 2 squares. Now I might, if I can fit it in here, I'm going to find the center, and I'm going to draw another circle around the outside and show you just the way, because you can now project that square outwards and find your 32 points of the compass rose. Yep, that's inside the camera. So 1 square, which you can, they're already, so the top, so let's say 12 o'clock, 6 o'clock, 3 o'clock and 9 o'clock. And well, it's even a simpler. Now if I was to go where nearly trick, because these I haven't set the 12 at the very top yet. So yeah, the numbers you have to go in between the numbers here. So that's why that second point is a relevant one. So now we have through that corner of this square and through that one. So now we've divided, we have an octagon. So we began with triangles, so 3, 6, 12, 24. But once we get to, once we get to 24, we can divide that into 3, you get 8. So now we have octagon geometry. And we also have 3, 6, 12, 24 geometries as well. Now, I'd make the circle bigger, it's just not going to fit it, but so if I was to draw a line, I'd want to have this circle further on the outside, and so it would just touch the circle, but I'd have a square, and then I would draw another square, and then I would have all the points you need to do this 32 rays around the outside, because then you can just divide where those squares intersect. You get your 16 points, and then you can do your 32. Okay, but that's just how you do it. I'm not going to do it there, but so we go back, we have our Maltese Cross, and now we have the 24 points, and now we can do the Templar Cross, and I want to make that stand out, so I'm going to use a marker, and I'm going to be very careful. So I'm going to set it up first with a pencil, so if you place that point against the paper, it's going to bleed through and leave an ugly dot. Slight bit out, should have spent more time getting it right, but you can, if you're doing this, you can just take your time. I'd want to highlight these things, and I also need to take it, so I'm using a thin point now to find the point, but the marker is thicker, so I have to take consideration for that when I line these up. That's why this one is slightly off. Okay, so now we have that, and now with these uses the chevrons that are built in, and you get we have 1/2 of the Templar Cross. And this Templar Cross gives us 30 degrees with a 15 degrees, so again it's there's a simpler way to draw the pendulum I've shown before, but you know, from this clock design comes the 1 second pendulum. So it's like it's an illustration of time, but you can also use it as a tool to create, or as a tool to measure time. Again, I'm going to take account for the thickness of the marker and adjust my line. So hopefully the blue's standing out enough to we can colour in that, shade in that Templar Cross as well, just to make it more obvious. Here's that picture. It doesn't stand out yet, that's what we're drawing now. We've got the Templar. Okay, one line, and now I need to go from there, again just adjust the ruler just a little bit below the line so that the marker follows through. And complete these chevrons. Alright, so there's your Templar Maltese Cross design. Can shade those in. Yeah, okay, now I'll go to high speed and